Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Behind the Voices with Derek, Steve, and Prince. And now, today's guest, Ryan Colt Levy! Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, that was a hell of an announcement.
You know, you gotta liven it up a little bit with everything going on, right?
Dude, I love it, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. How are you guys doing today? Where am I? There we go. All right. Cool. Hey, we have some awesome people on the show with us today, Ryan. We got one guy who is watching us from the United Kingdom as we speak right now.
Oh, right on from the UK. Hello.
Nick and Shar are on here. Shar is from New Jersey? No, New York.
New York, that's where I'm from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right on.
What
New
part?
York represent.
What part?
What part? I kind of all over. I was born in Manhattan and lived there, and in Brooklyn and Long Island.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Nice.
All over.
Mutts.
Yep, very much.
I am a mutt as well. After I graduated from college, I was there in New York for a couple of years, was all over the place, down in Brooklyn, in Queens and Astoria, Upper West Side. It was all craziness.
It's a wonderful city.
Pittsburgh? I didn't know that, dude. Nick, awesome.
Pittsburgh, right on.
Woo woo. Pittsburgh represent. Nice. That is awesome.
Thanks for hanging, guys.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Oh, and Vanessa's here too. She's also from the UK. Very
Hello,
cool.
Vanessa.
So, guys, very excited. Brian and I have been talking a while about this as far as getting him on here. He was very gracious enough to be able to take some time out of his schedule for us. So let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Virtual round of applause. Those of you guys that may not be as familiar with some of his work, I know two pieces in particular are going to definitely resonate with you guys. The first being Jazz in Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-Kun, and in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders, or no, what arc were you in JoJo?
It's in Golden Wind.
Golden Wind. So in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Golden Wind, he played Squallow.
Yeah.
Squallow.
It makes you say it that way, right?
It does.
It comes out of the mouth that way.
But obviously, you do a lot of original animation, right? And you do some dubbing as far as live action stuff. I guess that's your niche. So guys, for a lot of the voiceover actors that I've had on the show, a lot of them do, anime and dubbing and stuff, but there's a very particular specialty for what Mr. Levy does. And
that's very sweet.
I know, because I've been on that side of the fence before, dude. I mean, I used to do background stuff for CSI and Arliss and some other stuff, but you have to. I mean, it does. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it does take a certain intellect and a certain type of actor to be able to, when you go in for a certain type of show and you know that you're getting booked for something in particular, like let's say it's something like CSI, right? Or let's say like a hospital show or something like that. It helps if you do research. So that way, if you, in one particular episode, you have to, the casting director's just saying, okay, Ryan, go. You're a doctor. You're in the background. You're going across the screen.
Improv or something. Right.
It helps in the improv to be able to know exactly what you're talking about, because it just helps make the scene come to life more. Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about the part of the job that we have that is like a weird byproduct that you are lucky to do if you want to, is you can be really nerdy about stuff that is normally completely out of your wheelhouse.
Right.
So I actually really enjoy when that happens. And like, I find even if it's completely like, even with anime stuff, I will become kind of weirdly obsessed with things like Squallow from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. His stand is based around a shark. His name in Italian stands for shark. Like,
Okay.
the whole thing, like, I became obsessed with the idea of sharks, and you know, and when I was a kid, I was obsessed with sharks. So, like, it
Oh,
was
really?
easy to, yeah. So I find no matter what, I find a weird touchstone in everything we do.
Yeah.
But with live action dubbing, it's what I find that's the biggest like difference that the brain really has to work with, you know, on the day, is the living in the moment versus the line by line.
Yes.
You know, because the actual recording process is so different.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of your brain has to, you know, you're just kind of constantly. It's more like getting to do a play. That nobody sees,
Right,
you know?
right, and with no script necessarily.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, you know, I would say most of the gigs I do, I'm working off scripts, you know, because they're either Netflix series or whatever. But
Okay.
you know, in the case that you have to do like improv stuff, even in those moments, it's what's nice is the directors and engineers and everyone that you're working with, you know, and therefore producers and everyone trust you enough to, you know, when they are like, hey, we need you to riff this, not be like, look at that dinosaur, where they're like, well, that has nothing to do with what's going on, you know?
Yes. Yes. So you're a relative. I would say, I don't know how old you are, but I would say you're probably relatively young. Yes.
I'm 33.
Oh, you're 33. Well, you don't even look 33 at all.
Oh, well, thank you.
Much younger. But obviously there was an origin story to you getting into this industry in the first place. Tell us how that all came about.
Oh, for sure. It's a strange one. I mean, I think as most of us have, like, no two stories are the same, right?
Nope.
I'll try and make it as concise as possible. But essentially, when I was growing up, I mean, from adolescence, I was obsessed, thanks to my parents, I was obsessed with film and storytelling and video games and cartoons. And my first love was I wanted to be a director, actor, you know, kind of. I was too young to know enough of a separation.
Yeah.
To me, it was all just, you just do this stuff.
Right.
You know, I had the video camera. I would take my action figures and make elaborate scenes. I would do all kinds of stuff. I would have my younger sister play out scenes with me, and we would, you know, perform plays for my family. And I was constantly dressing up as a kid and rolling around outside. And, you know, I would literally go to school deciding I was a different character that day, to the point where my teachers were concerned, you know. And by the time I was around 13, 14, really around 12, I picked up a guitar at 12 years old.
Okay.
And music became this really kind of immediate other obsession. And there was this sense of growing up in New York, acting, I could do theater, I could do, you know, little things, but I didn't have a real touchstone or connection with anybody to get into the actual industry from there. And it seemed so unreachable. It seemed like kind of this world that you couldn't permeate. So when I got into music at around 12 years old, there was this sense of, oh, A plus B equals C. If I pick up this guitar and figure out how to write a song on it, I can write a song. You know, I can see the thing through.
Yeah.
So I don't need somebody to tell me what to do, you know,
Right.
and or give me permission to do it. So I literally had two buddies, you know, by the time we were 13 or so, I was, you know, like, you're going to play bass, you're going to play guitar. And, you know, we started our first band, and I basically kind of sidestepped acting as a career for what became almost a 20-year music career in a bunch of different bands, and
Really?
recording and touring. And oh yeah.
Wow.
So most of my career, you know, and I was still working all kinds of other jobs. I've probably worked 15 odd jobs,
Side
from
jobs, just
coffee shops to music teacher at a school of rock to working at a gym to all kinds of weird stuff.
Right.
Just to, you know, always supplement and pay rent however you need to. But it was always, you know, writing and playing in bands. And that was what it was 4 years ago now, what led me and my bandmates from New York out here. We moved out to Los Angeles
Oh,
for
wow.
music.
Okay.
And at first, things were doing well as far as like we'd get on some cool radio stuff like indie stations, and we were getting really fun shows to play. The community was really accepting of us, but we weren't making any money, and it's tough enough being an individual creative person trying to survive. Being a band, it's like being married to your best friends,
Right.
and we lived together, and it was just like it just kind of felt like layers of stress that we were putting on each other. And I was working at the time, for 2 years I was working at an animation studio, a stop motion animation studio, as a PA, just like a glorified studio PA,
Okay.
day in, day out. And more or less within the same week, my entire department got laid off, and then my band broke up. And it was the first time in my entire life. It was one thing to not have a job, but it was another thing to not have this identity of, oh, this is what you've done your whole life.
Right.
Now what?
Right. And this was how long ago that this happened?
This happened about 2.5 years ago,
Okay.
I'd say.
Okay.
So, maybe not even, maybe 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was this really strange thing where instead of going into what would normally, be the proper reaction, which is panic, I was in this weird kind of calm state of like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I remember sitting with my buddies, and they were like, so, what's your next step? And I said, oh, I'm going to act. I'm supposed to be acting. I should have been this whole time. And they're like, and their response was, well, yeah, but what are you going to do to survive in the meantime?
Right.
And it was
Right.
this funny thing where I kind of like, I don't know why, I just kind of knew that I was crazy enough. I was feral enough. I was old enough. I'd gone through enough experience. And I was like, I don't have an answer, but I'm never going to work a normal job again. And I invested in all the ways that in all the money I didn't have. And, I had, family helped in certain ways and whatever they could, and it was this sense of, I just committed 1,000%. I had unemployment that would last me a couple of months, 6 or 8 months or whatever it was. And I was like, I'm going to get a better voice reel made. I'm going to sign up to all of the casting websites, just for whether it's on camera, this, that, whatever. I was, I got back into theater training and improv training, and just got really focused on taking it seriously again. Cause I had done training in New York and stuff, but
Yeah.
it never goes away.
Right.
And, I just kind of dove into the obsession. I was like, this is everything. And for the first time, it was this weird thing where I felt like I finally kind of came up from from underwater or something like that.
Yeah.
And at first I wasn't even focused on voice acting. I was just thinking about theater, on camera, doing whatever. And I started doing some like little commercials, and I started doing some extra work, and I, was just, again, you do a 15-hour day as an extra. For me, that was glorious. I'm paying attention to everything everybody's doing on set and soaking it all up, while other people are, complaining. And it's like, dude, you could be folding jeans at Old Navy right now,
Yeah.
But to each their own, But to me, I like to use my time to kind of digest it all. But anyway, it was this weird thing where I was kind of finding my footing, booking enough small weird things to at least kind of get by, which was weird enough. And then I was playing a video game one day, and it was this weird realization of like, hey dummy, this other thing that like is right in front of your face that you've been madly in love with? You remember when you were a little kid and you'd eat carrots in front of Bugs Bunny like obsessively? Do you remember how like it was like this weird focal thing? I was like, oh, I should focus on voice acting. And I started to just kind of hone it in. And I also realized that a lot of what was happening with on camera was, granted, people may not see it off the bat, but in the cinematic world, people will typecast you very quickly. And they saw the Middle Eastern in me right away. And they're like, oh, you'd be a great terrorist in episode whatever. Or, like it was a lot of that,
Right.
So I became very disenchanted with like the opportunities presented, and it became this thing of voiceover was like, you know, both we see your color for unique opportunities, but they're also like, we don't care, like play, you know, play a monster, play this, how about this, like just what can you do as a performer?
Right.
And it was this thing where I just had a few people, you know, step by step believe in me. David Sobolov was someone who was a major force in the beginning. Who he had directed me in a short on camera film, and we became really close buddies.
Huh.
And he then produced my next voice reel. And he was someone who's just, I mean, to this, he's like family to me now. But you know, he's constantly been a force of inspiration to keep going. My acting teacher, my you know, theater and on camera acting teacher is incredible. Her name's Lauren Patrice Nadler. She's also a New Yorker, you know, here in LA, and she's got that like that attitude that's just, you know, she so soaks up everything you have to offer, but she will be so real with you when you're like giving bullshit, which I love.
Right.
And I find so much of that is informative too, regardless of being on camera or not. And then eventually it just became a thing of kind of like, I'm just going to use all the stuff I have. I have enough credits. I've got a good reel. I have XYZ. And I started reaching out to places that I felt like I could and not expecting any response from anyone. And it was this weird kind of trickle effect where like people just kind of started being like, yeah, hey, we'll check it out, blah, blah, blah. And you know, it became this very fortunate thing of the industry somehow kind of being like, yeah, you're not the worst, you know?
Wow. That's very, very, very cool.
It's incredible. I'm very, very lucky and very humbled and honored. Believe me.
Yeah. No, and it shows you're a breath of fresh air in the voiceover world just because you are very humble, and you know.
Oh, dude, thank you.
Yeah. So I met Ryan, it must have been back in October, November, something like that.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, exactly when it was.
Yeah.
Because it was it was a session. It was a Wallace session.
Yeah. I think it's available on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken.
Totally.
But we were in a session together that was directed by Ezra Weiss, who is, for those of you guys that, wow, that name sounds familiar. Ezra is also the director for Miraculous Ladybug. But he directed this short. I don't know if it was like a series or maybe it was just a movie. But
yeah, it's a series.
It is a series. Okay, and called Cable Girls, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Cable Girls, and about.
I believe it's from Spain.
Right. And basically, we just did an English dub of it and did a whole bunch of background stuff for it. Other people that were in it, I remember Kellen Goff was in it. I don't remember.
And Deneen Melody.
Yeah. So you know, and you know, I don't know that we ever got credit for it or not, but it doesn't matter. It was just work. You know, we were just glad to be working, and that's how I came across Ryan. So
it was super fun. That's also in what we do is you know, unless you do a lot of Wallace sessions, those are kind of like a rare scenario for us, because normally you're in a booth by yourself with your director and your engineer, and it's one of the more fun ways to get to meet someone for the first time, because you get a sense also that like, oh, okay, well, if we're all in this room together, we all know the drill. Yeah. We're all weirdos. Yeah. We've all done this before.
Right.
So there's an immediate kind of, in the same way that you would if you're meeting a director for the first time, there's you allow yourself to be emotionally vulnerable right away with a stranger, because you're like, we're all here for the same reason.
Yeah.
So you let your guard down in a really healthy way, and you were so sweet that day. I remember, you know, because like we had no idea who each other were, you know, and like I had known Kellen and Deneen because, you know, we had been friends prior to that, and I didn't even know they were working that day. So like it was the thing, like anytime someone walked in the door, it was like, oh hey. So it was a really wonderful. That day was so much fun.
That's cool.
And it was a pleasure to work with you, dude.
Oh, thank you, man. Okay, so. Little personal, not too personal question, but I gotta ask only because
ask away.
I'm curious since I have my own as well.
I see where this is going.
Tats, yes.
Yeah,
Tell me about the tats.
Oh man, so I have I did the math recently, and I feel like I'm probably off, but I had counted 23.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And most of them, surprisingly, most of them are on my arms. It's
Okay.
just that they're kind of in pieces, so you don't notice them,
Yeah.
until you notice them. And I don't know if I'll knock the camera off here, but I have a couple on my leg.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, they've all got a different kind of story and
Right.
thing behind them. I will say that some are incredibly meaningful.
Hmm.
Some are meaningful in their meaninglessness.
Okay. Okay.
And I've kind of found this really funny balance. And some are, like I'll explain. I'll give you a couple of
Yeah.
examples.
Yeah.
Like the first tattoo I ever got, is this symbol here on my hand. It's an ohm.
Mm.
And the reason I got that is because, to me, the concept of the vibration of the universe, this universal kind of connective tissue that we all have, we all resonate, we all can resonate together.
Mm-hmm.
It's very musical. It's very much kind of in line with what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that was before I even knew what we wanted to do. I was a kid.
Yeah. Right.
But, and I would draw it on my hand with a marker for a few years before I even got it, because it was like, do I really want a tattoo? I was the kid who was afraid of permanence for a long time. And then I finally got it, and it was this sense of like, it almost like broke away this weird OCD of me once I got it in a really healthy way. And then my second one, much larger, is Charlie Chaplin, who he's been an obsession of mine since I was a little kid, since my dad showed me City Lights. I mean, both my parents showed me a bunch of films, but specifically Chaplin just became this crazy obsession. And me and my mom saw a Chaplin play on Broadway years ago. That was actually amazing. It was like kind of just like this short run thing, but his life story is incredible. And what he did for storytelling, for Hollywood, for filmmaking, for creatives, he speaks volumes in the kind of like limitlessness you can be as a creative person. Right. So he's a hero, and that's partially kind of anything to my dad. I have, tattoos connected to other family members, my grandmother, mother, other grandmother, my sister. One that's meaningless. I have this like pagan symbol of light. I thought would be funny to put on my middle finger. I just thought that's funny.
Okay.
I have some video game themed tattoos. Yeah, like here's a goofy one. I have this skeleton drinking coffee because I will drink coffee to the bone, or coffee till death, however you want to interpret it. It's my go-to forever.
Lauren is clapping, by the way, because she's obsessed with coffee as well. Yes.
Yes, the coffee lovers, they know. They just get it. They get it. One of my close friends actually is my tattoo artist out here. And something that I do hold really personally is we have matching. I don't know if you can see it. This is the Blade Runner unicorn.
Oh,
the origami.
Sweet. Yes.
Yeah. So we decided to do friendship tattoos, and so one night I went to his shop, and it's like walking distance from here. And so he did it, and then he's like, "Okay, now you do mine." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I thought he would just have someone else at the shop do it, and he's like, "Yeah, you give me it now." So
what?
He just they gloved me up. He had someone else run the the foot pedal, and I gave him the tattoo.
Yeah.
And it looks like a prison tattoo. It's horrible, because man, you don't think about it. The crazy thing about tattoos is like getting them is one thing. Giving them, it's not even like forget about artistry is not even a conversation with me, obviously. That's years and years and years of a whole other thing. But you don't think about what happens to your brain on the empathy level when you're carving into somebody until you're actually doing it. And granted, this guy is smothered in tattoos. It was literally like we had to find a spot to put it, He was like, I guess we could fit it in there, but and he was like unflinching, but the whole time I'm like, I'm sorry. So that was fascinating to me. But yeah, so we share those. But yeah, I've got a bunch of ridiculous stuff.
That's cool. Doesn't necessarily have to be Chaplin related, but do you have a favorite silent movie?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I will say my favorite Chaplin film is City Lights, which I know most people go for The Kid, but City Lights to me is one of those like beautiful, weird romance stories, and it's got so much going
Mm.
on. Um, I watched March of the Wooden Soldiers a lot as a
Mm.
kid. Laurel and
Mm-hmm.
Hardy. Um, the when I was in high school, I went through like the really heavy like film nerd phase that I've continued to this day. But it was like that's when I watched all the weird stuff that they're like you should go back. Like I've seen like there's a short film from Luis Buñuel, Un Chien Andalou, which is a very bizarre experimental short film. I think it's about 17 minutes long, but it's like, have you ever seen that? There's an image that this is kind of disgusting, but there's an image of like a person's eye being slit with a razor blade. Have you ever seen that image? It's like a black and white shot. It's a very like famous shot from cinema,
Okay.
but it's from that, and it was this. The way that he did it, it's actually they used like a cow's eye that was like they like got it from like the morgue or something. They had like
Oof.
and they actually used it, but they edited it in a way where it looked like a person, and it was one of the most horrific things ever. But yeah, so I watched a lot of weird silent
Wow.
films.
Okay. All right. All right. Cool.
I'm a film nerd for sure.
Yeah.
What about you? What are yours?
Favorite silent movie. Do I have a favorite silent movie? Um, you know, as I can't. There was.
Stop.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. There was the one with Harold Lloyd where he was trying to fix a clock. I can't remember the name of it though.
It just makes me go to Chaplin. It makes me think of modern times.
Oh,
It makes me think of the image of him, hanging from the clock.
right.
I think Harold Lloyd. Well, we'll have to continue this conversation on our own
Yeah.
because everyone else is probably like silent
Right.
film. What are
Yeah.
you guys
Right.
talking
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So,
about?
and let's see where we're at. Okay. This is good. This is good. Good time to open it up, the conversation, and see what questions we have for you. So this first one is from L'Oreal. What is your favorite thing? Oh, this is a good question. Somebody who's interested in voiceovers herself.
Right
What
on.
is your favorite thing about voicing in anime?
My favorite thing. I think my favorite thing has been there's something really interesting recently that I'm noticing that is a more consistent thing with anime, which is this really cool kind of mix of the heightened bit, just like bigness of it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a nuance at the same time that they're mixing into these stories and these characters that wasn't always there necessarily. It was kind of usually it was a little bit of one or the
Yeah.
other. And I feel like now there's this really nice blend of you can be really bombastic and find this bigness in these characters and really stretch in weird ways and be goofy, but there's a discovery there and a growth in these characters that is really fun to play
Mm.
with. And I think that the writing is really, really great. I think there's a lot of like the storytelling is really juicy and the kinds of stories are really unique now. I mean, Welcome to Demon School, I feel like is a very unique anime for right now because of how unusually positive it is and how playful it is, and it's playing with subject matter that isn't necessarily all goofy,
Right.
but how it does it is really charming, and it's so about love and inclusivity, and that's rare, and at the same time the anime that are far more adult are really pushing genre boundaries as well. So it's a cool time to be doing the work. Period. So
Yeah.
it's really fun to just play.
Did you recently get introduced to anime, or have you known about anime for a while?
Oh no, I grew up
Oh, you
on it.
did.
Now, yeah, and that's what's so funny is like I didn't grow up on it going I want to be an anime voice
Right.
actor. I grew up on it going I love watching this
Right.
stuff.
Right. Right.
I watched at a very young age. I was back when I was a wee
Yeah.
one, and you just went to the video store.
Mm-hmm.
The first animes that I ever saw were a lot of the early Studio Ghibli films because they were all on
Yeah.
VHS and they had such incredible artwork on the
Mm.
covers. So whether it was Totoro or Kiki's Delivery Service, even like, so early stuff,
Yeah.
and then Spirited Away became
Right.
a tome. So, that's part of, I actually have, I don't know if you can, we'll do this. I'll get up here. Whew. I don't know if you can see,
Oh yeah.
but that's how much I love Spirited Away. So that became another really personal
Mm.
thing. And it was like I watched Ghost in the Shell. I watched Dragon Ball as a kid. My friends are obsessed with Dragon
Yeah.
Ball, and that was a whole other
Right.
thing. I would watch Dragon Ball. My friend would give me the manga in
Mm.
Japanese. I'd have no concept of anything other than the pictures were so elaborate and told the story so well that I'd literally just understand it from the
Mm.
pictures. And I would become obsessed, and I would try and draw the characters, and the whole culture really grabbed me, but it didn't make me think that I was going to do it as a career, which is so
Right.
weird. And the first time that it really hit me when I was younger that the stories were different also was the first time I saw Cowboy Bebop when it aired on Adult Swim. And that was, because at that time I had experienced enough things. I mean, I had seen Akira, I had seen some really wild
Yeah.
stuff, but I was younger and I only processed it so
Right.
much. And I was at the right age when, I think it was 2099 when it came out on Adult Swim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that show, I was a big Blade Runner fan, so like all that stuff mixed together, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And that kind of changed my perspective on it into my young adulthood. And yeah, I mean, same thing with video games. I never stopped really playing video games, so the obsession was always there, but I didn't think about it actually manifesting into a career, focus it into one. But I joked about it with family, how it's like this whole time it's been research and I didn't realize
Right.
it.
Right. Have you ever met Steve Bloom yet?
No, we've had very loose, like,
Right.
interactions, but
Yeah.
the man's a phenom. He's an absolute legend.
Yes.
And what I love about Steve, from not knowing him personally, but what I love about him from what I can tell is that, and how he carries himself, is he's not only extraordinarily talented, but for where he is, who he is, he's so gracious
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
humble and open, and just he's like, you aspire to be like Steve in not just as a performer but as a person in his
Yeah.
place. So he's a wonderful, like, they talk about it like when you're on a film set, like the number one on the call sheet,
Right. Right.
being the guy who sets the example for everybody
Yep.
else. And I think Steve is a wonderful person to be a guy that everybody looks at and goes, well, he sets an example, and he sets a hell of an example as a
He
person.
does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did an interview with him. He was actually one of the first guests that I actually did when I started doing the show. So
Right
that's
on. Well, I'm honored to be in company of such, as I am with you, good sir.
thank you. Let's see. How did you like working on Demon School?
I absolutely adore that show. I literally can't gush enough about that
Mm.
show because, like I said, everything I've already said about the series itself, I stand by it, to the point where my mom watches it every
Oh,
week.
really?
It's the last episode of this first season is coming this
Uh-huh.
Saturday, and she's more depressed than I am that it's ending.
Oh.
She is, yeah. It's literally like, and my mom's never seen an anime before, and we were talking about it the other day. She absolutely adores it. She'll text me after episodes. She's like, "Did this really just happen?"
Oh, how cute.
It's
That's
amazing.
cute.
But I love. I mean, my between the castmates that I have that are absolutely, like, their talent level is so
Mm.
extraordinary. I love getting to watch the episodes afterwards and see what they're doing and just crack
Yeah.
up. Jalen, our director, our fearless leader through this whole thing, has just been extraordinarily gracious and so fun and so warm. Like, every session is just
Mm.
joy. Um, it's one of the most charming, like, gift experiences I've ever had in my life. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
there's nothing about that show I don't love, and everything about it I appreciate being a part of it to the depth of my heart.
That's very cool. That's so cool. Um, Let me see.
You guys are so sweet for hanging out. I appreciate it.
This is more of a. This is more.
We got a
No,
scandalous
no,
question?
no. It's not a question. It's more of a statement. This
Oh no.
L'Oreal, who uh, is interested in getting into voice acting later on, and asked you about, your favorite thing about voicing anime. She said that since you dressed up all the time as a kid and like to make up a lot of plays and stories, she can totally relate. She's 26 herself. She still dresses up and does that with toys as a kids author, a children's author, and she
Amazing.
raises you her Ravenclaw chalice. So there you
Oh,
go.
hell yeah. You know what? That's very appropriate because what's funny is I someone asked me a long time ago, like what house I felt
Mhm.
like I belonged in, and I always felt like I associated with the Ravenclaw. They felt like my
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Do you?
I raised my chalice to you.
Ah, well, there we go. I think I'm Ravenclaw, aren't I? Yeah, I am Ravenclaw.
Are you? Right
Yeah,
on.
I went to the official website to find out.
I think I did that, and they told me I wasn't, but I was
Yeah,
like, I know
yeah.
it.
Do you? You mentioned Studio Ghibli films that you liked.
hmm
Do you have a favorite out of the ones that you've seen?
I mean, I think it's generic, but I think my all-time favorites right now, it's hard to beat Spirited Away because of how much, one, the story is so
Hmm.
full, but the actual animation is so extraordinary. There are so many moments in that film that are just awe-inspiring. You can just pause it and just stare at the screen for 20 minutes. It's
Yeah.
There's so much, the detail, the depth, it's powerful. I love Howl's Moving Castle, um, which I find to be one of the, like, I feel like people don't talk about it as much. It's crazy. Christian Bale dubs it, like he's the lead.
What?
Billy Crystal is in it. Like it's got
What?
I mean, Studio Ghibli has they always have like huge A-list actors dub their stuff. It's always like Joseph Gordon-Levitt or um, they who else is there? They always have huge
Right.
names, but.
Right.
Um, But yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is a cool one. If you haven't seen that, that's a great
Okay.
one. It's very, it's got a. I mean, as in tradition with Studio Ghibli, the scope is just
Mm-hmm.
beyond.
Yeah. That actually came from Shara, who is in New York.
Right on. Thank you, Shara.
Oh, Kite. Kite, one of the, just a comment. No, no, no question. Just saying you're amazing. Um,
You're amazing. Holy cow.
oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Really? Really? Okay. Totally non-related acting question.
Sure.
Um, ah.
I'm
Okay,
curious by your
so
reaction.
this is coming from Cadmos for both of us.
Okay.
For both of us.
hmm
Ferrari or Lamborghini, you can only pick one.
Oh, well, I don't know if you're gonna like my answer. I walk everywhere. I don't even have a car.
But if you could have a car.
Uh, whichever one I would have, I would donate to charity. I would just donate the proceeds to charity. It's funny because like cars are just not my thing,
Okay.
especially and like fancy big like really flashy stuff is so not my thing at all.
Right.
Um, Not to like shame anyone who likes
No,
that
no,
stuff, but
no.
like for me, that's never been my cup of tea. It's probably so far from the answer that person wanted. I
That's
apologize.
okay. That's okay. Cadmos, I'll answer it for you. If I had to pick between a Ferrari and a Lamborghini, it would be a Lamborghini. Um,
There we go.
um, so,
They're like Transformers,
yeah,
right?
they are kind of like Transformers, yes. I'm curious though. Okay, so obviously in New York, never had to worry about transportation because you could take, the subway anywhere you needed to go.
Yeah, yeah,
So that
yeah.
was never an issue. When you came out here, how did you get around to all the gigs you needed to get to and stuff?
Well, I did. So it's weird. When I first moved out here, I didn't have my car, and then 6 months into it, I had my car shipped out here.
Okay.
And so I was like, because I was doing so many different things in so many different parts of town, because at that point I was still working a few different full-time
Yeah.
jobs. So I was working in one job in one part of the city, and then literally in the same day I'd have to drive like across, the whole
Right.
way just to work the rest of it. So it was
Yeah.
madness. Um, but basically, about a year and a half ago, my car was parked outside, and I was hanging out in my apartment, and I heard this very loud mess of a sound. And turns out a drunk driver just decimated my car.
Oh.
So it wasn't even necessarily by choice. And basically, just through all the circumstances, it was like, you know what? Not going to have a car for a little while. And I live in a scenario where I can logistically walk to most of the studios or most of the places I need
That's
to.
great.
So and we live in Los Angeles. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I like being able to walk outside and being out and about. So I am being from New York. I'm used to that kind
Yep.
of kinetic
Yep.
nature,
Yep. Yep.
So to me, it's actually like I literally don't see a downside. And, if I were in need, friends have cars, you can always jump on the metro or take an Uber. Granted, now no one's doing any of
Right.
that, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, walking everywhere is kind of great. You walk to, and if it's like if the studio is really far,
Mm.
there's a coffee shop in between. It's like you just plan ahead. Um, I
Uh,
find exactly. I find those little kind of things to enjoy about it. So that's how I get by.
got it. All
Yeah.
right. So Ben from the UK
Hello,
says,
Ben.
through all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through on your journey to where you are today, is there a moment where hypothetically you wish you had taken the left turn instead of the right on the path of your career?
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, in my previous career,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I think it's one of those really weird things. I think that was the most like that was what broke my heart the most about my band splitting up and kind of saying goodbye to that whole thing was not even the sense of my own personal like success.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fact that I was the lead singer,
Mm.
songwriter, whatever the guy that technically is responsible for everyone else's,
Yeah.
success or
Right.
failure. And, when your best friends give you their time, their energy, everyone spends their money and everything, I felt like I had failed
Mm.
them kind of in the grand
Mm.
scheme. So for me, a lot of that I guess what the question is like, what do you regret kind of thing. What's interesting for me and what I'm incredibly grateful for and fortunate to have is that all of that I was able to filter into. Those are still my best friends in the whole world. We all look out for each other in a weird way. We've all thrived in the places we're supposed to
Yeah.
since. But as that happened, I really took a lot of many hard looks at myself within and decided, okay, how many steps did I fail through this process, and how can I be better? That how many times did I fail my friends, and why and where and blah blah blah? Where did I drop the ball?
Mm.
And not in a sense of you're a bad person, but where did I drop the ball, and how can I be better, and how can I be more present, and how can I be more aware and productive and full of clarity and full of have communication better, whatever it is, all the
Right.
things. And I filtered all of that into what has manifested into my career now, which has been very successful, and in the sense that I'm working, like I'm not a big star kid,
Right.
but it's like I'm fortunate enough to say like, holy crap, I could, I'm doing this full time,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, so much of the stuff that I took that I did wrong there, I really, you know, changed in ways that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. It's all the stuff that you're not good at. It's all the stuff you don't want to, have to deal with that you have to deal
Right.
with. And I think that's the only reason I'm finding momentum or any kind of success now, because I have dealt with and continue to deal with it every day. I use that as another reason to go like, what are you not doing good enough now? Or how, like it. be honest with yourself kind of as much as possible, you know, and cut the ego out of it. And I think that,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of it is kind of youth and learning as you go. And I think in so many ways, I don't know that I even would have enjoyed a successful music career in hindsight with how touring works and how all this stuff. Like, I did a lot of that and I loved it in pieces, but I had walking pneumonia on a tour that we had once for 2 months. Like, you know, it's like I've experienced it where you're like this is great, but like I'm dead inside, you know. So
Right.
And I think that like it's all just been a really weird kind of beautiful universal like thing that's led me here. You know, I feel like this is where I belong,
Right.
but only because I've learned all those lessons and went through that, you know, fire, so to speak. As much as there were highs, there were lows, and that's how I've grown.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
sorry, it's a long-winded answer, but
No worries. No worries. Vanessa from UK is asking if you knew that there's going to be a season 2 of Demon School.
Yeah, I did. I did know that. I mean, you know, it's one of those weird things where like I know it's happening and I'm, you know, 99% sure we're going to dub it, but like until we like announce that we're dubbing it, like, you know, I have to kind of assume that it's all theoretical. But I'm very excited. And I mean, it's funny because I've looked at some of the like later issues of the manga, but I refuse to like spoil myself too much because something I love, as you know, when you get to be a part of a series, there's something really fun about when you go in and you don't know what's happening until the day. What's cool is even though you watch the scene and then you do the scene, you're still experiencing it for the first time. So like, I'm sure you have this too, where like, I love doing an episode and, you know, you're following your character through an arc and you get to a certain moment and something happens and you react in the booth. You're like, oh my God, you know, like, and you take that with you into how you act. So I'm very excited for where season 2 is theoretically going to take everyone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nick, were you on Robot Chicken?
No, that's funny. I worked at the studio that produced Robot Chicken for years, so I've worked with many of the great artists on that show. Yeah, that's a crazy show.
Yeah. Okay, so unfortunately, Nick, sorry, can't really answer the question.
No, I didn't voice anybody on it. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Oh dear. Okay.
Oh no.
Cadmos has another question.
Oh sure.
You. I'm assuming, awesome. Cadmus, that you are not from the California area, which is why you're asking, and that's perfectly fine. So, Cadmos is asking, what is the best part of Hollywood for a zombie apocalypse movie to have you be the first zombie victim in?
So wait, so does that mean like what's the like easiest possible place for it to happen?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Probably right on like Hollywood Boulevard, right? I mean, like that's basically already a zombie apocalypse. Like if you like right outside I think if you just get off of the red line, you know, like on Hollywood and Highland, I'm pretty sure that could be ground zero for a zombie apocalypse, and on any given day. That I can give an answer for.
Coming from Vanessa, did you ever watch Digimon as a kid?
Oh man, so I know this is going to be blasphemous.
That's okay.
Considering everything, I didn't, only because I grew up. I mean, again, I'm 33. Right. So I grew up, and for me, it was like I was at the cusp of Pokemon, and like the card games and the original, like the first seasons of the dubs, you know, and it was kind of the same thing for me with Power Rangers, where like I grew up on Power Rangers, and then there was a certain point where like I was just like kind of already doing other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then there were like the other shows that were all, so like I like just missed Digimon,
Okay. Okay.
as what I, but like it's a show I obviously would have been obsessed about.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. Like at that point, I was the weird kid where, like, clearly I was already watching like silent films and stuff like
Right.
that. So I was the weird kid where at that point I had discovered way too many things on HBO I shouldn't have, and I was like, knee deep in some like weird series. I was watching like Spawn, like
Mm.
the rated R Spawn
Mm.
13, like the Max. And do you remember MTV Oddities?
No.
So MTV Oddities was like, it was kind of like what Adult Swim was to is to Cartoon Network.
Okay.
It was this like block of time that was late at night. I want to say it was maybe Friday or sometime around the weekends, maybe a
Mm.
Saturday or something like that. And it was a series of a few animated series. It was like Aeon Flux. There was a show called The Head. There was a show called The Max. There was a bunch, and they were like out
Yeah.
there, very adult, very bizarre. These animated series, and it was just kind of this weird like time period. And it was, I want to say, like early
Okay.
'90s, mid '90s, and then like into like the early 2000s. But it was just this really crazy kind of thing that I became obsessed with as a kid. I was always into weird
Yeah.
stuff. um but yeah, I had a lot of friends who were obsessed with Digimon, but I had like just missed out on it.
Okay.
So now I will have to catch up.
Ah, very cool. Are you kind of off topic, but are
Hmm.
you a regular subscriber on IMDb, or do you have like a pro account, or
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
you may want to check later on. Nick was asking the question about Robot Chicken because I guess you're credited on being in the show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm credited as I'm credited as miscellaneous because it's not a he'll if he pays attention, he'll notice it's not under my acting
Okay,
credits.
there we go. Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
But thank you for paying attention, good sir, and I appreciate looking out. Because I am part of the production for what I was part of, just not as an actor.
Okay. Very random question, Ben. Oh my lord. But we will,
I like random
we
questions.
will, we
Okay,
will,
to me, they're all just questions.
we will ask this as the last question of the evening,
Oh wow, okay.
because we're
A lot of
almost
pressure
at
here.
the hour mark. Um, no.
I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm
Uh,
excited. Lay it on me.
oh dear. Okay. Are you familiar with the term Karen, like as a
Oh
as
yeah,
a
yeah,
as
yeah.
a type of
As
person?
a as a yes,
Okay. So
very much
this
so.
is kind of like a two-part question thing. So,
Sure.
okay, Ben and Shara both are asking, but it's primarily coming from Ben.
Okay.
Ben is asking if you would prefer fighting 50 angry children.
Oh, it's one of these. Okay, hold on. Let me put my thinking hat on. I now I know what I'm in for. Give me a
Okay,
second.
okay.
Okay. All right.
So,
Hit me.
50 angry children or 25 angry nuns, and you have to pick one, but Shara is adding that she feels like if you're going to pick the 25 angry nuns, that they should all be Karens.
Oh God. Wait. What?
Yeah.
Hold
So,
on. That changes so many different forms of dynamic. Because so like first I have questions now because it makes you wonder like were they Karens before they became nuns? Did
mm,
becoming nuns turn them into Karens? Like was it the
mm,
system that broke them?
right? Exactly.
Um, I think regardless, I'd probably rather. What was the first one?
50 angry children.
I think I would probably take on 50 Angry Children because not because I feel like I would actually have to fight them. Um, the thing with Karens is I literally that's like asking me to submit myself to like foghorns in unison for hours. I can't handle that. My brain can't handle that. You can't fight that. But what I can work with is if you got a bunch of kids coming at you real angry,
Yeah.
you go like, wait. I voice cartoons.
Right.
And then,
Right.
you just put on the most ridiculous show you could possibly put on. And, and then if they're angry, you run because, like, look, I got a couple of inches on my legs that these kids can't handle. I will just take off flying. They can't catch me. Karens, though,
Right.
that volume,
Yeesh.
that has distance.
Yeesh.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I do have a last question for you.
Sure, sure.
Based on the fact that things are, a whole
The
new
state of things.
world
Yeah.
for you, in terms of your future career in acting, whether it be voice acting or on camera acting, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's no if, you can make it whatever you want it to be. But if there was this is the perfect role for me, boom, what would it be?
Ooh, okay. I think, I've always been obsessed with, kind of like the cyberpunk, steampunk kind of culture, and the idea, the Blade Runner universe, that to me, like, science fiction, fantasy, and like world issues as a like hybrid of storytelling has always been so fascinating. So I think to be able to play a character that has to journey through that world for whatever the reason may be. I don't even need the character to have a specific archetype. I like Blade Runner, I feel like was always kind of revolving around like a police force. Like, that's not necessary.
Right.
I think that, especially now as we're in this kind of universe that is almost eerily close to that kind of stuff, just without the cool technology, I've always been fascinated by that. So I think to be in some kind of like Blade Runner-esque universe would be a dream.
That's very cool. Yeah, I can relate to that. I grew up as a kid watching the original Blade Runner.
Oh yeah.
And do you know Keith and Val Aram?
Yeah. Oh
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
not like super well.
Right.
But yes.
Right. There was this thing that happened. I think it was. Is it a year ago or 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. But River. Who was there?
Yeah. I love River.
He just emailed me really quick, and this is the only time this has ever happened to me in my entire life. But he emails me in the morning. He says, "Dude, we got this audition. We need you to do it. Can you just knock it out and send it back to us?" And I had no idea what it was for until he actually emailed it to me. And it was for, at the time, obviously, it was an experiment on their part that didn't really go anywhere. But Google wanted to do like this virtual reality game type thing. And the game was centered between the first Blade Runner and the second Blade Runner movies.
No way.
And I don't know how much you remember about the first movie, but there was this one part.
Oh, I literally watched it recently again. I've seen it many times.
So there's this one part, you'll have to see it. This was fascinating to me because I had never seen it, and I grew up watching the director's cut, and I don't even think it was in the director's cut. But
really,
but
interesting.
There was this excerpt from it that they gave me the scene to, where I think it was cut out of the movie, but there's this one part where where Harrison Ford is visiting one of the detectives who got basically shot from.
I know exactly. He's in the hospital.
Yes.
I know exactly.
Yes.
I've seen that scene. I know exactly. I'm a dork. I know exactly. What
exactly. And so the character that they had me audition for was that character that was in the hospital.
Dude,
yeah, I know.
That's so cool.
It was freaky.
So cool.
And it was the only time in my entire career in voice acting that they actually told me the same day, like within hours. It's like, okay, you're it.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's crazy. It's so funny because that never happens.
I know it never.
Really
it never does.
Like usually the like it's funny because a lot of people that if there are other people that are like aspiring, one of the weirdest things that people don't tell you is like. It's one thing to like do the auditions and whatever, but like you literally like, we often talk about like audition and just forget about it. And the reason is not just for the obvious ones of like the incalculable variables of like as to why you won't get something. So like take your emotion out of it, no matter how bad you want it. But like I've booked things that I've auditioned for so long ago that when you book it, you forget and you're like, what? Like, or, it's so weird. Sometimes it's a week later. Sometimes you just never hear back. Sometimes it's 6 months. Sometimes they call you a year later for something else, and they just go, we like you for this
Right.
instead. It's like, it's so weird.
Uh,
So you like, to get that in one day is like,
yeah.
I would do a backflip.
I figuratively did that. But
What? That's such a bummer it didn't come to be,
no,
because that's so
no,
cool.
I mean they actually they did the whole game. It's actually it is an
Oh,
actual game, but it's like
so then,
it's weird because it never went anywhere. They didn't market it properly, and because
can I play it though? Can I play it on a platform?
you can only play it on I forget what the platform is through Google, but they already had like a 3D system, like virtual reality, like screen, like that you can view through whatever. And I think it was only available through that. Like it wasn't on PS.
Oh man, I would love to see that. What a
Yeah,
bummer.
yeah, it's weird.
Oh
You can
man.
actually see. I think there's if you go onto YouTube, it's called
I was just gonna say I'm gonna YouTube it right afterwards.
it's called Blade Runner Revelations.
Amazing.
And
I'm gonna
I
look it
think
up right
somebody
now.
actually even did an entire playthrough of the whole game. So
Oh, here it
yeah,
is.
there you go. So
Oh,
it's on there.
dude,
But anyway,
this is
all right,
amazing.
so cool. Stick around, Ryan. I have a couple of things for you after we wrap things up.
Sure, sure.
Any last words that you want to tell everybody that's been watching? Just
Oh my gosh, I just thank you guys for hanging out. I did not expect that we were even gonna have that many
yeah,
questions, so I'm so grateful. You guys are so sweet and funny, and your questions are all super weird, and I loved it. So thank you. I don't know if you guys if you had like the social media stuff up on here, but if you guys want to find me, on Twitter, it's just my full name, Ryan Colt Levy. Just at. Same thing on Instagram. But it's Ryan Colt. Just my first two parts of my
okay,
name. Website is just my full name. All that kind of stuff. And
cool,
I'm more active on Twitter. So if you want to see goofy stuff and talk to me, I'm there.
cool, very, very, very cool. All right, man. Well, guys, again, it's been another great episode of Behind the Voices with Ryan. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Please, please, please be good humans. We will see you
Yes.
guys on Friday for Gaming with the Prince. Until then, no. Oh, wait. Oh, that's right. There is no Gaming with the Prince this Friday because of the whole Naruto signing thing. Yes, that's happening.
Aha.
That's happening. So, no
A
Gaming
good
with the
reason.
Prince, but we'll be back on Sunday with Digimon. There you go. So, until then, please, please, please keep your feet on the ground, but reach for the
Yes,
stars. Mwah. We love you. Stay with me, Ryan.
Yes, sir.